George Washington Carver, Ingenious Inventor, by Nathan Olson, illustrated by Keith Tucker. Chapter 1, Slave to Orphan. In 1864, a slave named Mary, her young son James, and baby George slept alone in their Missouri cabin. They knew nothing of the danger outside their door. The U.S. Civil War was in its third year. While Northern and Southern armies battled, bushwhackers roamed the Missouri countryside. They would steal slaves, take them far away, and sell them to new owners. Are you sure she's alone in there? She might have a baby with her. I don't know. The next morning, Moses and Susan Carver discovered their slave, Mary, and her baby were missing. Mary would not have run away and left James behind. Bushwhackers. They've stolen her, no doubt. A few days later. No sign of the woman, Moses. She's long gone, I'm afraid. We're happy you found baby George at least. Susan and I will have to raise these boys ourselves. In 1865, the Civil War ended and slavery was abolished. The Carvers treated the boys like their own sons. James helped Moses with farm work. George helped Susan with household chores. Why are some roses red and other roses pink? I guess for the same reason some folks have white skin and other folks have black skin. Once a year, Moses took George 8 miles to Neosho, the biggest town in the area. There, George saw many large buildings, including government offices, schools, and stores. George looked forward to the trip. Do you have your money, George? Yes, sir. I've saved for a whole year. George, some boys are spendthrifts. They throw away their money on junk, but smart boys are thrifty and save. George was a curious child. He wanted to know the name of every stone, every bug, and every plant he saw. I expect that book has almost every word in it, but it doesn't have plant names. I wish I could go to school. The closest school is clear off in Neosho, George. When George was about 12, we hate to see you go, but if you want an education, we won't hold you back, George. Thank you for everything. Write us soon. George knew the way to Neosho from the yearly trips he had taken with Moses. I'm so tired. It's late. I don't think anyone will mind if I sleep in there. Look at that skinny boy. He looks like a scarecrow. When he wakes up, we should feed him. The next morning, George awoke to the two kind faces of Mariah and Andrew Watkins. Who are you, son? I'm Carver's George. Slavery is ended. You should call yourself George Carver. The Watkins lived next door to the school George attended. They let George live with them in exchange for his help with housework. I don't see how you can manage reading and washing. Before long, you'll know more than the teacher. Oh, Aunt Mariah, there is so much I want to know. As a teenager, George was ready to move on. A family moving to Fort Scott, Kansas, agreed to take George with them. Take care of yourself, George Carver. Chapter 2, On His Own. When he arrived in Fort Scott, George was on his own. He knew no one and needed a job. I heard you want someone to do housework. Do you know how to cook? Yes, ma'am. All right, I'll give you a chance, but my husband is very particular. George really didn't know how to cook, but he had a clever plan to learn just what to do. Mrs. Payne, I'm so anxious to do this just like you're used to. If you show me how you do it, I'll be sure to have things just the way you like them. George went to high school in Minneapolis, Kansas. When his money ran out, He dropped out of school to work for a while. When he had enough money saved, he'd quit working and go back to school. George Carver, where have you been for the last 2 months? I was working in the hotel laundry. George eventually earned his high school diploma and applied to college. Good news? The best. I've been accepted at Highland College here in Kansas. When George arrived at Highland College, he received a bitter disappointment. There's been a mistake. We didn't know you were black. This college is for whites only. But I have my letter of acceptance right here. With his dream of college gone, George wandered from place to place. He took jobs wherever he could find them. I'm going to Iowa to work the wheat harvest. Come with me. You could get a job too. What does it pay? More than you'll make sweeping up around here. In the late 1880s, George was living in Winterset, Iowa, where he worked odd jobs. One Sunday morning, his singing attracted the attention of a wealthy couple by the names of Dr. John and Helen Milholland. Doesn't he have a loving singing voice? Doesn't he have a lovely singing voice? Whether I agree or not, I suppose you'll invite him home to dinner. I think I'll do just that. The Milhollands befriended George and often invited him into their home. George impressed them with how much he knew about plants. It looks like the plant has root rot. Oh my, what should I do? You may be watering it too much. Wait until the soil is dried to the touch before you water it again. George shared many of his talents with the Milhollands. This painting is beautiful, George. When I lent you my paints and brushes, I never dreamed you had such talent. You could do far with more education, George.